For a lot of us, trying to be humble feels like an exhausting exercise in self-punishment. We spend our energy hyper-focusing on our flaws, constantly reminding ourselves of our shortcomings, and carrying around a heavy, shifting burden of guilt. But there is a cruel irony in this approach. The harder we strain our willpower to force ourselves into a state of lowliness, the more miserable we become. We end up totally obsessed with our own internal state. This creates a strange psychological trap. As we push down our sense of self-worth, we inadvertently push up our ego. Our self-condemnation secretly mutates into spiritual arrogance as we start comparing our supposed holiness and intense self-awareness to everyone else. You see this in the historical account of the Pharisee praying in the temple. He stands there thanking God he isn't like the extortioners or tax collectors. His prayer of gratitude is actually a thinly veiled ego trip. Guilt-based humility is ultimately a disguised form of narcissism. Even when we are actively hating ourselves, we are still entirely focused on ourselves. In the late 19th century, a theologian named Andrew Murray identified a devastating flaw in how we pursue this virtue. He realized that true humility isn't triggered by obsessing over how sinful or broken we are. Instead, it naturally emerges when we are overwhelmed by the scale of God's grace and the beauty of His creation. When your attention is captivated by something infinitely greater than yourself, you stop relying on willpower. The self simply fades out of the equation because you are too busy looking outward. Humility is the quiet state of self-forgetfulness, where the focus on one's own standing simply ceases to exist. Murray suggested that this constant internal friction points to a deeper design issue. In his view, human beings were never engineered for independent, standalone power. We were built for a state of joyful, total dependence on the Creator. Think of humanity as an open, empty vessel. We were designed to be continuously filled by an infinite downward flow of life from God. But the fall broke this mechanism. By giving into pride, we severed the connection and sealed ourselves shut. Cut off from the source, the energy inside stagnates and builds pressure. This isolation is the source of our exhaustion, our jealousy, and the friction we experience every day with the people around us. Our interpersonal misery is a mechanical failure. We are empty vessels exhausting ourselves trying to generate our own fullness and quickly burning out in the process. Jesus modeled the mechanics of the emptied vessel in human form. He explicitly claimed that he could do nothing of himself. He tied his divinity directly to absolute submission and servanthood, relying entirely on the Father to do the work through him. This leads to a rather uncomfortable reality check. Any internal claims we make about our own spiritual holiness are hollow if they fail in the realm of daily human interactions. If your temper suddenly spikes when someone criticizes you, or if you cannot tolerate annoying people, your humility is just a fragile mask. How you react to the person who irritates you the most is the unvarnished measurement of your actual humility before God. So we are left with an impossible trap. You cannot conquer your own pride by using your willpower, because your willpower is fueled by the very self you are trying to overcome. You cannot cure pride with more pride. The only way out is a surrender of the ego. It requires letting the self die so that the life of Christ can replace it. The reward for this ego death is freedom. The exhausting, full-time job of defending your reputation, securing your status, and protecting your feelings simply evaporates. The Apostle Paul understood this when he wrote about glorying in his weaknesses. He discovered that acknowledging his utter emptiness was the prerequisite for power to enter his life. Indestructible happiness isn't found by climbing higher. It is found by sinking down into a joyful nothingness, where the self finally disappears, and we allow God to exalt us in His own time.